Okay, well, this is my first podcast. I don't know.
Mental Patchwork Podcast.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I like listening to podcasts, and sometimes I have a lot of fun just thinking and talking and whatever. So it's going to be a mixed bag. Hence the title of the podcast. Mental patchwork. Patchwork. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Sean, and I became a musician in 1985. I remember the exact moment I became a guitar player. That's probably a story for another day. And then I started jamming with some buddies casually. We had a little sort of just fun band called the Tormentors. We practiced or jammed about once every 6 months. And then I was invited into a band called Sadistic Humor, and I didn't even think I was ready, but that was an amazing time. We were together for about 5 years, and we played thrash metal, and we had a really great time. It's just so great to play music in front of a mosh pit. You know, the crowd just was going crazy. And then I had a change of direction, and I was invited to join a band called Structure, and that was electronic industrial music. So that was a whole new world, a whole new set of horizons. We had a side project called Naked Wavelength that was pretty interesting ambient weirdness. And I was jamming some jazz fusion oriented types of things with a band called Squeaky Leak. And this is in approximate order, like this is a long time ago. And then me and a buddy we do Tragedy Hash Brown, which is we pursue the ideal of pure improvisation, which is actually, a lot of people say they're improvising, but they're really playing something that they've kind of programmed themselves to do, but when we do our improvisation, I feel like there's an element of deprogramming or kind of like escaping the programming of musicianship. And then I was in a band called Cozy Gel Pod, which was a rock band. We had a couple tunes on the radio here in Kamloops. And a little band called Arcanum that was together for a little while. And then eventually, there was a little bit of a quartet that was acoustic with some guys. We were called The Neighbors. And then Sadistic Humor attempted a reunion about, 10 years after we broke up, I guess. And we had to change our name, though, to Electric Humor because we had a new style. That was fun. And I did some really fun improvisation in a sort of party context, combined with some solo things. But that was called Guppy Tyke. And when I was living in that jam house there where a bunch of us lived, we also had a band called Scruff Machine that was really fun. And then me and some buddies did some improvisation for 2 days straight. And then we selected the best of it, called it Best Before Holocaust. And then I was in a duet called Jagged with the drummer. And we played for the Burlesque a couple times a few times. And we played out in public. And that was very improvised stuff. I had my guitar going through a sampler that was triggering all kinds of weird noises and stuff. It didn't even sound like a guitar half the time. And then there was this duet I was in. We did ambient stuff called Drums of Drone. And then I was in a band called Reverend Hezekiah and the Church of Fuck Your Shit Up. So I don't know if I'm going to include swears on my podcast. Maybe I'll bleep them out. We'll see how it goes. But that was a real good time. We played at Armstrong Metal Fest, like way back, whenever that was. And then I was in a band called Crushing Complex. I guess you could say that we were kind of a technical death metal band, although I hesitate to claim that term because I don't really practice enough to claim that I can play that genre of music. Then what? Then I got an 8-string guitar and I started a band called Volcano Calculator, which was specifically for the purpose of giving my 8-string guitar something to do. And also it was a chance for me to be the leader of a band, which I had never done before. And that turned out really well. I feel really fortunate about that. And now I'm in a band called Slug Rust. I guess we do like sludgy, progressive, I don't know, that's a word that someone else told me. Progressive? I don't even know what that means, but we've played a few gigs in the last year or so, and that's been a good time, writing a bunch of new tunes. I've probably forgotten some names for sure. You know, who knows? Somebody's probably offended. Here's a bunch of cover bands that I was in. So I was in a band called Kuya, and I was invited to play in that. And we did a lot of Bob Marley. It was mostly reggae with some jazz fusion mixed in as well. I was also in a duet called Jelly Switch. We played a lot of gigs downtown. And I was in the Caitlin Goulet band. I was also in Doctor Recommended and Scully and the Mulders. That was pretty neat because I was the drummer in that band, which is pretty weird to think of. I mean, I was doing drum solos when you're not supposed to, and I was kind of a beginner, so I think the audience had a few laughs. Checkerboard Floors, that was fun too. Wolf 359, we actually hosted some open mic. That was a good time, super good time. And a trio called The Breeze, and a duo called The Sassy Gents. And we specifically played at the Burlesque. That was a really unique, awesome experience. And sometimes I do solo cover tunes as Nobody Rode. And speaking of solo, here's some of my solo projects that are original. Lex Plexus is the main one. That came about when I was in Structure, actually. And so it's very electronic. So that's like one of my closest to my heart kind of projects. And then at one point I decided, I should learn how to sing. And then as I got a little bit better, I decided to, how do you say, like put the pressure on myself by deciding to do a full album of vocal rock tunes. And that was called Skullfinger. And Stretch Alexander is my blues project, quasi blues. Kind of strays a little bit far from the blues. Can't help it. Like, it's really hard to focus on one style. I'm too diverse, I guess. And then I did a solo punk project called Circuit of Pain, which was completely inspired by the moment that I hooked up a transistor and ran my guitar through this transistor. And it sounds like distortion. It was like magic. I couldn't believe it. That was like a whole new world. So I just love the sound of the transistor. And I made a whole project out of just running the guitar through my own transistor circuits. So that was called Circuit of Pain. It's actually got a bunch of YouTube videos that I made for each song with the lyrics included on the screen. And like a solo project also is just like my name, Sean Luciw, SeanLuciw, which you can find a lot of these things online if you want, Bandcamp and whatnot. But when I use my real name, I that's usually for guitar-oriented music. Not like there's no guitar in the other stuff, but I don't know, it's kind of random. My decision making is a little bit random. Case in point, under my real name, I also publish my mathematical meditation music. It's based on what's something called the solfeggio tones, which is strangely one of my more popular types of things that I do. I don't know if I mentioned I play some classical guitar. I've done a few original compositions. And I've got my RCM 5 at this point. I got completely overwhelmed by level 7 and decided to do a blues album instead. That's how the Stretch Alexander album came into being. I like to make short films about once a year. That's super fun. In conjunction with the short film festival that happens every year here. I've done a couple art shows. That's a long time ago. Everything's a long time ago, man. What did I have for breakfast yesterday? It's like an eternity. And I wrote a book called Chaos in Boxes, Twisted Adventures in Music Theory. And I taught music for about 20 years, I guess. So one of the best things I ever did. I had a radio show for about 5 years. It had a couple different names. What else? I like to tinker around with electronics. I took a course online on electronics and ended up designing and building 3 guitar pedals, transistorized distortion pedals, hence referring back to that Circuit of Pain band that I mentioned. I also made an accelerating metronome with Arduino, and I made some computer programming types of projects, like accelerating metronome that was on the iTunes store, and what else? Music of the Spheres synthesizer, and a bunch of Python and whatnot. I've also done a lot of recording and mixing and mastering and that type of thing for local artists over the years. Maybe you've heard of some of them. Susie Ron, The Disfigurines, Pim, Soul Patch, 12-Point Buck, Driven, Citizen, Nix Nile, Roxanne Hall, Swaghammer, Pagan Machine, The Blackout Artists. And occasionally I feel comfortable using the word producer or co-producer. I feel like that's kind of a special word that's also kind of hard to pin down, but I figure like it means getting involved in the vision of creativity a little more, as opposed to just doing technical stuff. And I've done that for Life on IO and Daz the Punk and Jacob Bastian. And yeah, it's kind of a gray area when to use that word. That's a pretty long list of stuff. I don't know. Just trying not to cringe at the potential vanity of talking about myself for that long. But then, feel the cringe and do it anyway. That's level 1. Level 2, don't even feel the cringe. I had to look this up. GPT just gave me some encouragement. Don't even feel the cringe. Depathologize cringe. You understand that cringe is often a sign of social anxiety and is an overreactive feeling to normal human behavior. Yeah. Focus on authenticity. You stop trying to perfectly manage how you're perceived by others and focus instead on being true to yourself, which makes the feeling of cringe less important. Okay. Yeah, I was reading that off the computer in case you didn't notice. Yeah, so my friend sent me a tune. It was Who Was in My Room Last Night by the Butthole Surfers, and from the album Independent Worm Saloon. Whenever I hear Gibby Haynes singing, I think of Jesus Built My Hot Rod. Love that song. And I used to have an awesome Jesus Built My Hot Rod t-shirt as well. Wish I still had my old rock shirts, but now I've got my new ones. So anyway, and as I'm listening to it, I'm reading the lyrics and I'm like, wow, these lyrics are pretty creepy. The lyrics in that song were extremely similar to some of the events in this show that I was watching the night before. This show called Servant by M. Night Shyamalan. Kind of a weird coincidence, pretty specific actually. But anyway, then I was looking at Wikipedia and big surprise, really cool surprise. The producer for Independent Worm Saloon album is actually John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. I had no idea, so that's a cool surprise. And that also reminds me, maybe you didn't know this. The producer for Yngwie Malmsteen's first album, guess who it is? Guess. Les Claypool from Primus. I bet you didn't know that. Alrighty, and here is a special feature. I present to you the making of coffee the way that I like to make it. It's my special recipe. I replaced my old kettle with this new one. It's really fast. It's got a blue light in it. It looks all Tron. It looks Tron-esque and lasery. Ingredient number 1. Instant coffee. I've got a huge mug, so I put quite a lot in there. Next, one of the best ingredients ever. I really believe in this. This is blackstrap molasses. It smells so good. Oh, smell it. It's molasses. And nutrition facts are off the charts. Potassium 22%, calcium 12%, iron 11%, riboflavin 73%, magnesium 12%, copper 11%. Pretty damn impressive. So I just dump a dollop in there. Next, a little bit of cinnamon. Just dump that in while waiting for the water to boil. We also got to put some cayenne, a little bit of cloves, a little bit of powdered garlic, also known as garlic powder. Most of these things are going to go in after the water. I feel like the boiling water might destroy some of these ingredients. They probably won't, but for example, saffron, I'm putting that in last. I feel like saffron is kind of special and sensitive, so it's going to go in last. Oh, maybe a little bit of black pepper. This is important stuff. You know, people need to know how to make coffee like this. It deserves to be on a podcast. Seriously. I mean, some of the podcasts I listen to, people are just talking, rambling on and on. And it's fun. Okay, so I stirred in the water. Here goes the garlic powder. Nice. Cayenne. Yep. Black pepper. Good stuff. A little bit of cloves. Oh, crap. Lid's broken. Oh, and a little bit of saffron, just a pinch. This little package of saffron has lasted me several years. Next up, for the milk portion of this celebration, evaporated milk or condensed milk, whatever this is. I like the one with the picturesque painting of some cows out in the mountains. It looks like it might be in Switzerland or maybe Saskatchewan or something. And if I'm feeling super adventurous, sometimes I put a tiny little bit of butter in my coffee. Trying to get away from the habit. Well, I did get away from the habit. Probably shouldn't be pouring butter into your veins. Now that's a cup of coffee. And in other news, California just banned the declawing of cats. And now it's time for audience participation. And the name of the game is Guess What This Is? And maybe I'm going to tell you the answer. Or maybe not. Next time you go to the dollar store and you're looking for some cheap snacks, why not get something healthy? And you might be thinking, well, that's impossible. Well, no, it's not, because you could have cranberries, walnuts, cashews, although they might have a lot of salt. So there you go. Survival tip number 432. It's time for a musical nugget. This is where I play some live music on the air here. There's a special technique to playing the violin, which I invented. Basically, what you do is you leave the violin in the case for a few months, and you don't even look at it. And it gradually goes more and more out of tune. And then you pull it out of the case, and you don't tune it, okay? And then there's a technique where after strumming the strings, you can move the bridge to a different spot, and it changes the sound of the strings to a different melody, like this. So here's a little story. Yeah, I went to the store to buy some envelopes yesterday, and I couldn't find any of the right kind. So then I'm like, well, I'm already here at the store. I might as well have a little adventure and just kind of see what there is to see. Who knows? So what I found was a yo-yo. Where's my yo-yo? Okay, this is ASMR, right? I'm talking close to the microphone. This thing is rocking back and forth. I hope it's not making a bunch of noise and crap. Well, I should know better. It's not like I've never used a microphone before. Here's ASMR. I'm going to open this yo-yo package. Uh-oh, I think I bumped the microphone a little bit. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll edit that part out. So yeah, there was a yellow yo-yo and two white ones left. I got the yellow one. For people 5 years and older, yeah, I could probably use this. Here I go. Hey, that feels good. It's got a good balance. I'm glad I got like an official classic wooden yo-yo. Okay, I'm not very good at this, but it was fun while it lasted. That's got a good balance to it. It doesn't feel cheap or fake. So many things in this world have just gotten worse. Like, who invented that plastic bubble packaging? You know, when you cut yourself trying to get that stuff open. It's BS. So anyway, and further in my shopping adventure yesterday, after I found the yo-yo, and I realized I really wanted some tea tree soap. Tea tree soap, right? It's good for the sinuses. You know, it's like having fisherman's friend. I'm going to smell this. Can you smell this? That's good stuff. Yes, indeed. Does anybody remember that shampoo called Aussie Moist? Pretty sure I had some tea tree shampoo. I got this other soap too. Smell this. Holy moly, that's good. Okay, and then like the craziest find of all yesterday when I was in the store. I'm just walking and I see the word White Lotus. And I'm like, hey, I like that show, whatever. Like, I would have never cared about White Lotuses, but then I was watching that show. And yeah, season 1 is really funny. It gets funnier every time I watch it, I think. And, you know, you start to see the characters in a different light. But yeah, I like that show a lot. So I was walking through the store there and I saw this intriguing looking package. Caught my eye with this burgundy, red, and gold, sparkly, mysterious looking package. And it said, mooncake with white lotus paste and double yolks. It doesn't even say egg yolks, it just says yolks. YOLKS. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, neat. I wonder what it is. Mooncakes? So I bought this. And of course, I prefer to only buy stuff that's on sale if possible. You know, I came up with a nice little word gem that I would like to share with you all. It goes like this. It's only 3 words. I have to think about it because I almost get it backwards every time. Just give me a sec. I should have written this down. Like, even though I'm thinking of it right now, I have to write it down because if I start saying it, I'll just start saying it backwards. All right. Yeah, that's too many syllables for me to memorize in one lifetime. Here it is. Ready? Oh, I need like a special sound that indicates like a piece of wisdom that's about to arrive. I got this bell, but oh yeah, no, it's right here. Okay, wisdom nugget number 1. Frugality affords frivolity. Here it is again. Frugality affords frivolity. Frugality affords frivolity. Yeah, I made that up myself. I'm really proud. I don't think it's arrogant to be proud of coming up with something as amazing as that. Frugality affords frivolity. Well, it's self-explanatory, but basically it's saying, you know, don't be spending your money every day, all day. You know, try to save some money for a rainy day, and then you can, on a rainy day, you can spend all your money. Find stuff that's on sale. You know, they got the yellow tags in the grocery store. I'm sure everybody probably does that already. I mean, as a necessity, just trying to not be broke. Alrighty, so I got these mooncakes. Wow, I'm going to open it up now. Whoa, the fancy box has like a fancy magnetic latch on it. So there's food inside this mysterious treasure box. Whoa. Wowee. It's emanating golden light, just like the suitcase in Pulp Fiction. That is a really fancy presentation. There's 4 rectangular mooncakes. And apparently, they also include White Lotus. which is a really funny show. Not for everyone, obviously. It's mature content, just like this show. Pretty friggin' hardcore. Mooncakes. Here goes. I'm gonna take a bite. No, I said that I wouldn't eat any food on here. Okay, no, I'm not gonna eat food on this friggin' podcast. That's dumb. But that's fun. That's my adventure. Wow. Those are important stories I had to tell you. Important to no one but me. So, I don't even care. You know? Yeah, I don't want to get started on how everything's meaningless. Everything means whatever you think it means. Everything just is whatever you think it is. All right. Does this ever happen to you? You hear the Sweet Child of Mine guitar intro and you're like, that was my ringtone. That's the ringtone from my phone. My first phone was, a flip phone. And the ringtone was Sweet Child of Mine. So now whenever I hear that song, that's the first thing I think about. I always remember my old flip phone. Paradise City. Every time I hear the intro to Paradise City, guess what I think of? Go ahead, guess. So I don't know if you can probably message my podcast, but I don't really have any listeners anyway, but it's not actually live, and pretty soon I'm going to tell you the answer. Okay, so try to guess what Paradise City reminds me of. Or tell me, what does Paradise City by Guns N' Roses remind you of? And I'm going to tell you my answer in a couple seconds here. 3, 2, 1. The video game. Okay, guess what video game I'm talking about? Guess. I'm going to tell you the answer. 3, 2, 1. Burnout Paradise. Yes, that's correct. That's one of my favorite video games of all time. I've owned it 3 times. I just love that game. It's fun. Crash. Lots of crashing. Amazing soundtrack. Well, I'm almost run out of stuff to say. Oh yeah, so it's October, which means Fortnite is doing the Halloween theme again, just like last year. Wow, so I've been playing Fortnite for about a year and a half or more, coming up on 2 years in March. And since I started playing Fortnite, I don't play any other game, pretty much. Almost none. I don't even play my Star Wars Battlefront games anymore. Yeah, but Fortnite is pretty awesome. And it's Halloween, so you got the chainsaw, and we got some Scooby snacks. There's a bit of a Scooby-Doo theme going on. It's been fun so far. We played some trios last night there, and I think we won once. Me and all my Fortnite friends get number 2, second place a lot in zero build, and not very often number 1. I just heard on the radio that Rob Zombie's got a new album coming out pretty soon, in February. I think it's called The Great Satan. A lot of people have asked me, like approximately 0 people have asked me, so actually nobody. Actually, that's a pretty good name for the podcast, approximately 0. I just really like the word 0. It's one of my favorite words. Yeah, well, approximately 0 people have asked me, what gauge of strings do I use in my band? Slug Rust. I play guitar and it's drop B tuning that I do. So I'm like, well, that's a good question, because I had to do a lot of experimentation. First of all, I'm using a baritone Telecaster. I've never owned a Tele before, and I've never owned a baritone before. So I don't really think of it as a real Tele. It's kind of, I think the baritone aspect is more prominent, just the way that, the functionality, the reason, tuning stability. I had drop B on my SG, which is kind of a shorter guitar, and it went out of tune a lot. So anyway, I changed to a different guitar. And I had thicker strings, which felt so robust, and the tuning was so incredibly stable, but it was pretty hard to play. And I've decided more and more in recent decades and years that having everything be an extreme challenge is not honestly all that enjoyable all the time. Like sometimes it's fun just to do things the easy way. So I did lighten up the strings a bit, and so that it became very easy to play, but still quite stable in the tuning department. And this is what I came up with. 11, 14, 22, 30, 42, 60. Okay, well, that's enough of that. I get a lot of inspiration from the mainstream rock radio. I know that's not as cool as, listening to some more underground radio, but there's my confession. But here's a story. So this song comes on the radio called Even the Score by Toronto. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's an Iron Maiden guitar melody, like verbatim. Okay. And so I checked out Iron Maiden Prowler just to be sure. And sure enough, the very first guitar melody in that tune is the same as this very first guitar melody on from the song by Toronto. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. And Even the Score, first song on that band Toronto's first album, released in April 1980. The Prowler by Iron Maiden, that guitar melody is on the first song on the first album by Iron Maiden, also released in April 1980. So that's a lot of commonality. Is it a coincidence, or I don't know. It's just too much. I'm not pointing fingers. It's like coincidences happen, and also like musicians. Why would they not borrow melodies from each other? That's the most natural thing in the world. Some people are worried about stealing, copyright. Like, no, it's very natural for these types of things to happen. In fact, it could be considered as a tribute. Like, why not? Like when I was writing for Volcano Calculator, one of my bands, there was one section of the song that had like 3 or 4 riffs all in a row. And each one of those riffs reminded me of one of my favorite bands. So it went from the Slayer riff to the Megadeth riff to the Ministry riff to the Iron Maiden riff. I don't want to imitate anybody too much, but it's, I don't really do it on purpose, but it's, well, sometimes on purpose, I guess, but it just sort of happens naturally, right? Do I feel bad about it? No friggin' way.
For another fun comparison, listen to Posthumous Forgiveness by Tame Impala, and then listen to Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden.
So, those Dymo tape labelers? Classic. When did they come into existence? I had one ever since I was a kid. My grandpa gave me one. And so they've been around at least since the 70s. Dymo tape labeler. History. Those things are fun. If you don't know what they are, you should check them out. It's just a fun way to label things, physical items, using a sticky plastic tape and a sort of punch, kind of like a stencil, but more like a punch. It punches the shapes of the letters into the tape. And I just recently, about 2 years ago, bought one because I couldn't find my old one. So they've been around since 1958. So anyway, it occurred to me the other day, I was looking at my harmonica collection. Hey, there's my harmonica collection. I labeled one of them. I should label all of them. Now, what kind of labels do they need? Well, when you buy a harmonica, it says on the side of it, it says, okay, well, there's a letter D because it's in the key of D major. But mostly I want to play the blues. So, well, in the key of D major, chord number 5 is A7. That corresponds to like an A blues. So what do you think? I want to do that calculation every time? Like I get it wrong half the time. So, and end up choosing the wrong key of harmonica, right? For the blues. So now I just labeled all of them, which brings us to The next, a musical nugget. So here's some blues harp and A, freshly labeled. It's time for GPT Corner. Corner. GPT. Also known as My Robot is Smarter Than Your Robot. All right, so I've really been enjoying this amazing little chat GPT thing that's been gradually been getting better and better. So I ask it a question. Can you explain Jack and Sally from that Blink-182 song? And GPT says, sure, in the Blink-182 song, I Miss You, the line goes, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I can't really say the lyrics because copyright, okay? But if you know, you know. And it says, this is a reference to Jack Skellington and Sally from Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993. Here's what it means in context. Jack and Sally are gothic, spooky, but romantic characters. They live in a dark, strange world, Halloween Town, yet have a sweet, genuine love for each other. Blink-182's lyric uses them as symbols of a couple that doesn't fit the mainstream ideal. A love that's a little weird, offbeat, maybe emo or alternative, but still deeply real and loyal. In the line, blah, 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 you can find me Halloween on Christmas. The singer is saying, let's live our own way apart from normal society. Let's celebrate what we love. Halloween, darkness, each other, even when it's not the right time. So Jack and Sally is a romantic metaphor. It captures the idea of being outsiders who find belonging in each other, a perfect fit for Blink-182's mix of angst, romance, and pop punk melancholy. And then I said, beautiful, I'm crying. Literally, I was having an emotional day. I cry pretty easy sometimes. Okay, I'm going to go back to singing now. Yeah, because I was in the middle of singing it. And then ChatGPT is awesome. I go into to ask things like this. I noticed when Tom DeLonge pronounces the word already, the syllable all has a very drawn downward sort of AW sound. Like I literally have to drop my jaw or something to find that roundness, but I don't really know what I'm talking about, or maybe I do. And ChatGPT is so encouraging. It says, you definitely know what you're talking about. You're noticing something very real and quite specific about Tom DeLonge's vowel shaping. Here's what's happening. In Tom's accent and style, the word already often sounds more like already or already. Do, la, 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 etc. It goes on to give lots of details about vocal technique. It's helped me so much. It even clarified some issues about understanding diphthongs and how they should be, the first half of the diphthong should be elongated, etc. And at some point I asked ChatGPT if Tom DeLonge's accent is fake, and it says, no, it's just he's from New Orleans or something. By the way, the first question I ever asked ChatGPT about 2 years ago, I guess, the question was, explain the augmented sixth chord. Now, okay, I'm a musician, so I'll try not to bore you all with too much music theory, but it's a pretty specific kind of chord, and GPT totally failed in all of its descriptions, and I tried to lead it towards the corrected description, and it still didn't get it. Fast forward a couple years later, it describes it all perfectly. So this is progress. I'm pretty happy about this. The only thing that sucks is holding the phone in my hand and looking at the screen with my eyes and trying to remember not to bend my neck downwards and the sacrificing health and comfort for information. It's getting close. Once that is figured out, like I know I could use voice recognition, but honestly, that really sucks too, until it's better. But like I like to imagine, remember in the first Tron movie from the 80s, there was this little glowing, a little floating ball. Its name was Bit. And I think, yeah, it could only speak as a 1 or 0, depending on, you could tell from its emotion, whether it was emoting a 0 or a 1. And that was the only way that it could answer questions. And it would follow the user around and just always be there to ask questions. Just at the ready, you could just talk to it. So that's what I want. I want a little thing that floats around and is ready to, and why even speak? I want it to read my mind. I know people don't want Neuralink, stuff like that, but I wouldn't trust it either. I wouldn't want to get a virus, but honestly, if it could replace all of the physical touching of keyboards and screens, that would be amazing. So I just heard Rush is doing a reunion, and they're going to start playing again. I figured that would happen. I know they said they wouldn't, but that's awesome. They got a new drummer, and she's actually relatively unknown as well, which makes it extra cool. But she used to play with Jeff Beck. So, and I guess they were encouraged by Paul McCartney to do this. And they might even get more musicians on stage with them, like a keyboard player. And then I'm imagining why not have a violin player? Maybe a string section. A lot of their tunes would sound good with a string section. They could have the violin solos in that tune, Losing It, etc. But I have a little story to go with that too. So when Neil Peart died, I went for a walk and I listened to Rush in my headphones. I went to the beach and it was a nice cold day and listened to a whole bunch of Rush albums. And then when I got home, I decided to get on the drums and have some fun. And I didn't really jam along with Rush very much. I'm pretty beginner at drums. So instead I jammed along with this instrumental album that I have by Howie B, and it's called Turn the Dark Off. And it's got a very funky, cool sound, and I jammed along with that on the drums. And then I added my own guitars and whatnot and made a song out of it. And I called it Rushing Through the Dark. I published this song on a little EP called Funkalation because it was during the social isolation or whatever it's called when it was COVID. So I figure I could play you guys that song. I hope you like it. Here it is. So, thanks for listening and thanks for your patience, because, I'm new at this.
End of podcast episode. Terminating transmission. Signing off. Goodbye.